Good Yontif, everyone. We will begin our service with the song from the Psalms, Hine Ma Tov. How wonderful it is for all of us to be together, especially on this holy night of Kol Nidre.
It is wonderful to see everyone here this evening. It is wonderful to have our Kolenu choir on the bima with us. I know I said it Rosh Hashanah too, but it is so good to have freed them out of their little boxes to have you with us. They have worked so hard rehearsing for our High Holy Days. I know you know that this is our volunteer Kolenu choir. Many of you remember the days when the hired singers were back in the loft. I think we can all agree this is much better, unless any of them are here, but I don't think they would be. Of course, Cantor Canizaro works so hard with our choir, along with Robert Jarash, our accompanist, Tara Swartzba, who is conducting and who I know rehearses with the choir as well. So thank you all so much. Joining Cantor Canizaro, Rabbi Weiss, the choir, and all of us on the bima is Charles Weissman, one of our vice presidents and our pulpit guest and board representative this evening. Charles, thank you for being here as well. Just a few. Oh, and I do want to offer a special welcome tonight, and it's a welcome to very, very important members of our community. Which are all of the non-Jewish family members who are so supportive of your family, so supportive of bringing Judaism into your family. And I want to make sure that all of you know that that is not something that we take for granted. And like I said, very, very much believing that you all are full members of this community. And it's wonderful having you with us for our High Holy Days and whenever you are here with us. Just a few announcements before our service continues. First, if anyone has not yet turned off or silenced their cell phone, this is a wonderful time to do so. There are many times during our service where we will be standing, and in this service there are some times where we have prolonged standing. If there's anyone for whom it's difficult to stand or for whom it becomes difficult to stand, please know that you are welcome to be seated or remain seated at any point during our service. We know that you'll be rising with us in your hearts, even as you remain in your seats. I have seen some young people with us tonight, which is fantastic. I have not seen any real young people, and I guess that's what happens at the 8:30 service. So for those of you who are over 7, we are fairly confident that you're going to be able to sit quietly through the service. I'm not looking right at you, but you guys are wonderful, and we know that. But if anyone if anyone of any age finds that they need a little break during the service, please know that everything said in here can be heard from the Schimberg Grand Foyer. I forgot to introduce someone, which is Scott Cleckstall, who is our cellist, and he wouldn't tell me how many years at the early service. 14? I think more than that, because I was here 16 years ago, and I think you've been here as long as I have. Yeah. A long time. And we are always so lucky to have Scott here bringing so much beauty to our Kol Nidre, which we will hear later, a beautiful duet with Robert Jarash on the piano. Welcome to everyone who's joining us from home. Here at Schaarai Zedek, we very much believe that when you choose to turn your home into a sanctuary, bringing our service into your home becomes an extension of our sanctuary. We feel your presence with us this evening, and we hope you feel all of us with you as well. And even if you're in your pajamas, we're with you, but we can't see you, so it's okay. For those of you who are at home, the entire Machzor, our High Holy Day prayer book, will be on the screen next to us. If you don't see a prayer book, it's because you don't need it at that point. And same thing for those of you in the congregation. Everything that you need for tonight's service will be on the screens behind me. But you have the added bonus of having the physical Machzor, that silver Yom Kippur prayer book with you. And what Cantor Canizaro and Rabbi Weiss have done is put the page number on the top of the screen. So you can turn to that page, see where we are. And what's beautiful about this prayer book is while we choose one part of the prayer book from which to lead, there are so many other readings and sources of inspiration. And this really is a time where your eyes and your mind can wander. And if you are able to find more meaning somewhere else in the page, by all means, please make this evening as meaningful as you can in whatever ways that you can. At this point, it is my delight and honor to call Deborah Zepeda, joined by her daughter Zoe. Deborah is our operations manager and really represents all of those behind-the-scenes things that happen in our congregation where things just seem to be magic, but they're not. Deborah is making sure they're happening. And we are so grateful to her family, which we know gives up so much of her time so that she can be with us. So Deborah, we're delighted to be able to honor you and your family tonight.
The human spirit is the lamp of God, searching out what lies within us.
Together, guided by the flame of conscience,
on this sacred night we search for truth.
Shine your light upon us as we strive to serve you. May we find safety in your faithful love.
We light the flame of healing and forgiveness. On this atonement night, we give thanks for love.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God. You fill the universe with majestic might, teaching us holiness through sacred obligations, giving us the mitzvah of bringing light on Yom Kippur.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehekianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God. You fill the universe with majestic might, giving us life, upholding life within us, and bringing us to this time.
Baruch atah Adonai, Baruch Shema, Eloheinu melech
Yom Kippur, the Jewish people's festival of the soul, and Kol Nidre, its sacred portal, a night of deep emotions, a night, as the psalmist wrote, to rejoice with trembling. We rejoice at the sound of Kol Nidre, rhythmic words of release from vows, oaths, and promises to God we fail to keep. We tremble at the melody, music of spiritual amazement. It fills us with awe as we stand before God and Torah.
We rejoice that we stand together, strengthened by community in this hour of shared weakness and humility.
We tremble because we are mortal. We rejoice in our gratitude for life.
We rejoice with trembling and enter Kol Nidre to face our humanity.
Or zarua lat sadik ul yishrei lev simcha. Light is sown for the righteous, radiance and joy for the pure of heart.
Vishiva shel mana, uvishiva shel mata, al dahat hamakom, ve'al dahat hahakal, anu matirin lehitpalel, im avar yamim.
With one voice, assembled sages past and present declare, all may pray as one on this night of repentance. Let none be excluded from our community of prayer. With one voice, God and congregation proclaim, all may pray as one on this day of return. Let all find a place in this sacred assembly. It is customary to recite the words of Kol Nidre 3 times. So the way we accomplish that in our congregation is first the duet with the cello and the piano, then sung by cantor and our choir, and then read in English. So now we will all reflect as we enjoy the beautiful music of Kol Nidre. the words of Kol Nidre are recited, it is customary to remove all of the Torah scrolls from the ark. Holding our Torahs this evening will be Mark Wolfson, Richard Levine, Lynn Miriam, Lindsay Dewey, and representing Sisterhood, Mary Osiason and Lisa Kiev Chen. If you all will come to the bima at this time. Let us rise. together. Let our speech be pure and our promises sincere. Let our spoken words, every vow and every oath, be honest and well-intentioned. Let our words cause no pain, bring no harm, and never lead to shame, distrust, or fear. And if, after honest effort, we are unable to fulfill a promise, a vow, or an oath, may we be released from its obligation and forgiven for our failure. Let our speech be pure and our promises sincere. V'nislach l'chol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lager hagar b'tocham ki l'chol ha'am bishgaga. All shall be forgiven, the entire community of Israel and the stranger who lives in their midst, for all have gone astray in error. Slach na la'avon ha'am hazeh kegodel chasdecha, v'cha'asher nasata la'am hazeh mimitzrayim ve'ad hena. Moses prayed to God, as you have been faithful to this people ever since Egypt, please forgive their failings now, in keeping with your boundless love. V'sham ne'emar, v'yomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha. And God responded, I forgive as you have asked.
We'll read together. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your great name fills the universe with majestic might. Your word creates twilight and dusk, as your wisdom opens the gates of night. Your discernment separates the changing seasons and causes the passage of time. The stars arrayed across the sky reveal your design. You roll out the cycle of darkness and light, shaping day and night. You sweep away day and carry the world into nightfall. Setting day apart from nighttime, you are God of all we can perceive and all that is beyond our perception. Living eternal God, be our sovereign to the end of time. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, creator of twilight and dusk.
Shema Yisrael,
may be seated. We now join together as we continue with the Shema, chanting Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzvavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shliftecha b'beitecha u'b'lechtecha v'aderech u'b'shochtecha u'b'kumecha u'shartam le'ot ayadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'b'sharecha leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kedoshim le'Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hoseiti etchem be'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
Truth and faith, these are fundamental to our existence. God alone is their source, and we are Israel, a people of God. Our sovereign saves us from tyranny, redeems us from its violence through countless wonders, from its brutality through great feats beyond measure. We are Israel, a people of God, the giver of life who would not let our feet give way, the maker of miracles for us against Pharaoh, of signs and portents in the land of Egypt, the one who brought our people Israel from its midst to enduring freedom. Witnesses to this heroic might, the people thanked and praised God by name, freely accepting the reign of heaven. Then Moses and Miriam and all Israel sang to you this song of utter joy. When fears multiply and danger threatens, when sickness comes, when death confronts us, it is God's blessing of shalom that sustains us and upholds us, lightening our burden, dispelling our worry, restoring our strength, renewing our hope, reviving us. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Blessed One, you spread over us a canopy of peace, a shelter of shalom over all Israel, your people, and over Jerusalem.
Ki vayom hazeh yichaper aleichem v'taher etchem mikol chatotichem lifnei Adonai in the Amidah.
Adonai sifatai tifta ufi agite hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, Umevi Gula Livnei Bneihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava. Zochreinu Lechayim, Melech Hafetz B'chayim, V'chot Beinu B'Sefer HaChayim, Lema'ancha Elohim Chayim.
Melech Ozer Moshiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham v'Mizrat Sarah.
Amen. We'll read together. Your life-giving power is forever, Adonai, with us in life and in death. You liberate and save, cause dew to descend, and with mercy abundant, lovingly nurture all life. From life to death, you are the force that flows without end. You support the falling, heal the sick, free the imprisoned and confined. You are faithful even to those who rest in the dust. Power beyond power, from whom salvation springs. Sovereign over life and death, who is like you? Merciful God, who compares with you? With tender compassion, you remember all creatures for life. Faithful and true, worthy of our trust, you sustain our immortal yearnings. In you we place our undying hopes. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. Blessed are you, Adonai, giver of life. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. You are holy, your name is holy. Seekers of holiness praise you day by day. And we are seated. Our God and God of the generations before us, may a memory of us ascend and come before you. May it be heard and seen by you, winning your favor and reaching your awareness, together with the memory of our ancestors, the memory of your sacred city, Jerusalem, and the memory of your people, the family of Israel. May we be remembered for safety, well-being, and favor, for love and compassion, for life and for peace, on this day of atonement. We read responsively. Our God and God of our forebears, pardon our failings on this day of atonement. Erase our misdeeds. See beyond our defiance.
For Isaiah said in your name, it is I alone, who wipe away your defiant acts. This is my essence. I shall pay no heed to your errors.
And the prophet said, as a cloud fades away, as mist dissolves into air, so your wrongs and mistakes shall be gone. I will wipe them away. Come back to me, that I may redeem you. As you said to Moses, for on this day atonement shall be made for you, to purify you from all your wrongs, and pure you shall be in the presence of Adonai.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu v'amecha Yisrael u'tefilatam be'ahava
Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country that it may always be a stronghold of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship among the inhabitants of all lands, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Inscribe us in the book of life, blessing, and peace. We praise you, O God, the source of peace. as we have offered a prayer giving hope for peace in the world, we think of those who need peace within themselves. At times of togetherness like this, we remember those who are not here with us, those who ail in mind, body, and spirit, those who lie on beds of pain, those suffering from COVID-19 and its after effects, those who dwell in a world of darkness and loneliness. We think of all of the dedicated medical professionals who work themselves to exhaustion to take care of our loved ones. For all of us, we hope for strength and fortitude to make it to health for us and our loved ones. If at this time there is someone you are thinking of in need of healing, I invite you to hold them tightly in your heart in this moment. And taking all of that love and those names, we commit ourselves to supporting those people in any way that we can in the year to come. We now join together as a community, singing Misha Berach, our prayer for peace.
We now take a moment to look inside ourselves and find the prayers written upon our own hearts. You may also follow along or read to find comfort on pages 67 through 71.
We now come to vidui, the confession of our communal sins. Both the short and long confessions are said entirely in the first person plural. We have sinned. We have missed the mark. Why might this be? On one hand, it may be to soften the blow. It helps us to acknowledge that each of us is imperfect. All of us make mistakes, and all of us are worthy of mercy. On the other hand, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel argues that in a free society, some are guilty, but all are responsible. When we let others go astray, when we let injustice happen, we too have done wrong. Let us carry these two things with us, God's tender mercy and God's stern rebuke, as we confess that we have all sinned. Please rise. Together, our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence, and when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong. We are seated. And as we come to our short confession in the form of an alphabetic acrostic, you may choose to join me in lightly beating your chest as we repeat each word of this confession, reminding us of the pain of missing the mark.
Yai la la
We read responsively. We have all committed offenses. Together we confess these human sins. The sins of arrogance, bigotry, and cynicism, of deceit and egotism, flattery and greed, injustice and jealousy. Some of us kept grudges, were lustful, malicious, or narrow-minded. Others were obstinate or possessive, quarrelsome, rancorous, or selfish. There was violence, weakness of will, xenophobia. We yielded to temptation and showed zeal for bad causes. You know the secrets of the universe and the secrets of the human heart. You know and understand us, for you examine our inner lives. Nothing is concealed from you, nothing hidden from your sight. Eternal One, our God and God of our ancestors, we pray that this be your will. Forgive all our wrongs. Pardon us for every act of injustice. Help us atone for all our moral failures. As we come to our long confession, which we will offer in the Hebrew and then in the English, you can feel free to join in either or both. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bezadonu bishgaga, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bedibur peh. The ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and harm we have caused in your world through the words of our mouths. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha be'imutz halev, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha betifshut peh. The ways we have wronged you by hardening our hearts, and harm we have caused in your world through careless speech. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bechachash uvchazav, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha birchilut. The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha biflilut, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'zilzul horim umorim. The ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bevidui peh, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha behona'at re'ah. The ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bechozek yad, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'masa uvmatan. The ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty and business. Ve'al kulam Eloha slichot, slach lanu, mechal lanu, kaper lanu. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bagalui uvasater, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bifri katol. The ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by losing self-control. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha begilui arayot, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'machal uvmishteh. The ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality, and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha beyetzer hara, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha beneshech uvmarbit. the ways we have wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through greed and exploitation. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha belatzon, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bintiat garon. The ways we have wronged you through cynicism and scorn, and harm we have caused in your world through arrogant behavior. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha besinat chinam, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bevitui sfatayim. The ways we have wronged you by hating without cause, and harm we have caused in your world through offensive speech. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha bilshon hara, ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'tsarut ayin. The ways we have wronged you with a slanderous tongue, and harm we have caused in your world through a selfish or petty spirit. Ve'al kulam Eloha slichot, slach lanu, mechal lanu, kaper lanu. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement.
Continuing with Avinu Malkeinu, also in Hebrew and English, joining in either or both as you're comfortable. We rise now as the ark is opened. Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol aleinu ve'al olalenu v'tapenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kalei dever v'cherev v'ra'av me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger.
Avinu Malkeinu, Kalei kol tsar umastin me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu, kotvenu b'sefer chayim tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu, chadesh aleinu shana tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu, malei yadenu mibirchotecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings.
Avinu Malkeinu, harem keren mishichecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption.
Avinu Malkeinu, na al teshivenu rekam milfanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing.
Avinu Malkeinu, kabel berachamim uveratzon et tefilatenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it.
Avinu Malkeinu, Aseh imanu lema'an shemecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name.
Avinu Malkeinu, aseh lema'ancha imlo lema'anenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake, if not for ours.
Avinu Malkeinu, ein lanu melech ela ata.
Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign.
Avinu Malkeinu, petach sha'arei shamayim litfilatenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayer.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema kolenu chus verachem alenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice, treat us with tender compassion.
Avinu Malkeinu, chonenu va'anenu, ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu tzedaka v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chamol aleinu, Ve'ol aleinu, V'tapeinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Kalevosa, Umasti, Me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Avinu Malkeinu, Malkeinu, Kadesh Aleinu, Shana Tova. Avinu
You may be seated. My high school's musical, my freshman year, was Fiddler on the Roof. And I was the only freshman who had a speaking part. Does anyone want to guess which part? And the choir can't guess because A, they heard at the early service, and they can read my sermon on the screen. So that's a double no for you guys. Any guesses? Not Tevye. I was a freshman. The rabbi, I heard it. The rabbi. It was typecasting. A blessing for the czar. May God bless and keep the Tsar far away from us. I think that was my only line, but I still have it memorized. So. You laughed more this time than last time. That's good. Now, my cantor at the time was very excited for my role, and she told me a story about her time as a student at the University of Hawaii. As an aspiring cantor and leader in her Hillel, she was tapped by a local high school to be the Judaic advisor for their performance of Fiddler on the Roof, in which none of the cast members and none of the teachers at the school were Jewish. So among her tasks was to explain to the young man who was playing the rabbi about the moment in which he would lock the doors to the synagogue during the song Anatevka, one of the final scenes of the show, as the entire village was being expelled, losing their homes and their community. The synagogue, she told him, was like a house for God, and it had been a place in which this rabbi had seen his community through moments of tragedy and celebration, performing the rituals of their ancestors. And now, because of a tyrant's hatred of those traditions and that people, he was never going to see that place or that community together again. Now, Cantor Height would not see the students again until opening night, when she took her seat, excited to see her teaching come to life. The set was just right, the taluses were all worn at the right times, and the Hebrew and Yiddish were spot on. She was especially proud of the rabbi throughout the performance, and as the show came near its end, when it was time for Anatevka, she was impressed to see a tear in his eye as he turned to lock the synagogue doors. It was then that he turned back, faced the audience, knelt, and crossed himself. He got her point, mostly. That final scene from Fiddler on the Roof is so heart-wrenching because while Anatevka was a made-up village, that was the end of the stories of so many villages like it. Tevye's eviction is based on the late 19th century evictions of Russian Jews from so many rural areas. And these kinds of expulsions had been a part of Jewish history since biblical times, with a constant threat of violence that was given new life with the pogroms of Russia. As one of the townspeople in Anatevka says after the song, "It's just a place, and our forefathers have been forced out of many, many places at a moment's notice." To which Tevye replies, "Maybe that's why we always wear our hats." That's why I wasn't Tevye. He did it much better. Now, it's at this point in the movie that we see the rabbi removing the Torah scrolls from the ark inside the synagogue, giving them to different members of the community who would care for them moving forward, before he leaves with the last Torah, singing a nigun, a wordless melody, with tears in his eyes. We then see all the residents of the shtetl leaving town en masse, each with whatever they could fit on their cart, discussing whether they were moving to Krakow, Jerusalem, or America. Golda, of course, must sweep the floor before leaving so as not to leave a dirty house. That scene kept going through my head as we watched Hurricane Ian approaching last week. Many under evacuation orders with all of the uncertainty that accompanied them. First of all, we too at Schaarai Zedek distributed Torahs at the end of our services on Monday, as we always do before big storms, giving them to our staff members who are furthest away from the areas of risk. We too, as a community, found ourselves reaching out to family and friends asking, "Where are you going?" But rather than Krakow or Jerusalem, our answers were Orlando, South Florida, Georgia, and even Europe, although I think that trip was scheduled ahead of time. And so many of you found yourselves packing up that proverbial cart with those most important things that you were able to fit in your cars, locking your doors, maybe even sweeping before leaving, not knowing what you would be returning to. Perhaps not really letting yourselves think about it until the risk had passed. Of course, there are major differences from our ancestors who were forced out of their shtetls, never to see their homes again. We know when a storm is coming, able to track at least to some degree its path, while our ancestors constantly lived in fear of their oppressors, not needing an app to tell them when they were approaching. They were always approaching. Our ancestors were forced from their homes, never to return. We knew we would be able to come back. We just didn't know when or to what. We also had the option of staying, which, depending on where we live, presented different levels of risk, as did leaving, as all those who went to Orlando learned. Now, we've done it before, but this one, I think, felt different. This one was different. I'm grateful that I waited until after the storm to watch the video of Hurricane Phoenix. Has anyone heard of this? This was a project in 2009, updated in 2020, which simulated what a direct strike of a Category 5 hurricane to Tampa would look like. It was terrifying. Although, to be honest, it was no scarier than watching the news last Monday evening. Yes, we share this risk with all those living in Florida and elsewhere on the Gulf. We know other coastal cities are at risk as well. But we learned and we know that it carries a different weight for an enormous number of homes in the Tampa Bay area. We felt that weight last week, and we still feel it moving forward. We share with our ancestors a feeling of vulnerability, knowing that our homes, our way of life as we've come to know it, so much in our lives is one storm away from changing forever. And whether we live in a flood zone A or E, we all understand this vulnerability in one way or another. So much in our lives can change just like that. And on these high holy days, we find ourselves dwelling in those moments where our own lives have changed in unexpected ways. When things we thought were one way turned out to be another. When dreams were lost. And like a hurricane, so often these changes are out of our control. Our tradition gives us a yearly reminder of the temporary nature of so much of life in the holiday of Sukkot. Now, I hope you'll forgive me for talking about Sukkot this evening while it's still Yom Kippur, but Sukkot is right around the corner, and rarely do we have over 1,000 people joining us for Sukkot, so this seemed like my best chance. Although with all of the wonderful things that we have planned for Sukkot this year, I really do hope that we see 1,000 people. So traditionally for Sukkot, we would live in the sukkah, a hut built outside our home for a week, or at least have our meals there. A sukkah, by definition, has to be temporary. We dwell in it only for 7 days. It's not allowed to be taller than 30 feet, for that would require a permanent structure. And the roof is made of schach, which is the best Hebrew word there is. Schach means vegetation. We use palm fronds. You'll also see bamboo. In Colorado, we had corn stalks. But whatever you use, it must allow for both light and rain to come through. And the schach cannot be nailed to the structure, making it even more vulnerable to wind. The structure itself must be strong enough to withstand a normal wind, but not necessarily more than that. And I know I'm not the only one who has had my sukkah blow into my neighbor's yard. While there's a debate as to whether or not a sukkah on a boat would be kosher, the reason is, and this is debated in the Talmud, Since a sukkah doesn't have to be able to withstand a strong wind, a sukkah on a ship would not survive the 7 days. After all, a sukkah cannot be too temporary. We read that an elephant is only permitted to serve as one of the walls of a sukkah if it is tied up, because otherwise it might wander away and you would then be missing a wall. Yes, that's really in the Talmud. Yes, I love what I do. And this is when I wish I had a visual up on the screen for you. I've never actually seen an elephant as a wall for a sukkah, though. Next year, definitely. But a sukkah can be very flimsy. As Rabbi Abraham Kook wrote, Jewish law validates a sukkah even when it has gaping holes, when it is built from little more than 2 walls, or has large spaces between the walls and the roof. Even such a fragile structure still qualifies as a kosher sukkah. Rabbi Kook, or Rav Kook as he was best known, became the first chief rabbi of Palestine, as Israel was known while still under British control, just over 100 years ago. And Rav Kook grew up in that same Russia of Fiddler on the Roof. So he certainly understood what it meant to live in a time of uncertainty, to feel vulnerable. And he wasn't questioning why such a flimsy sukkah would be permitted. That he understood. His question came from one of our daily uses of the sukkah as a metaphor for peace. Each night, in a prayer that appears in the evening service and is also traditionally said before going to sleep, a time that was considered peak vulnerability during antiquity, we ask God to shelter us in a Sukkat Shlomecha, a sukkah of God's peace. Rav Kook asks, why pray for a sukkah, a makeshift booth of peace? Would it not be better to have a fortress of peace, strong, secure, and lasting? He continues explaining why the sukkah is actually the perfect metaphor for peace. Peace is so precious, so vital, that even if we're unable to attain complete peace, we should still pursue a partial measure of peace. Even an imperfect peace between neighbors or between an individual and the community is worthwhile. Rabbi Mark Saperstein elaborates, we erect structures of peace with care, but they are all too easily blown over by the strong winds of group hatred and extremism, or undermined by the seeping waters of suspicion, or consumed by the fires of nationalistic self-righteousness. In order for the edifice of peace to remain standing, we have to be constantly on guard, Saperstein writes. We cannot take it for granted that peace, once achieved, will automatically endure, a lesson learned all too bitterly in our own time. This is true everywhere, in our own families, communities, cities, and our nation. Saperstein continues, the metaphor of the sukkah reminds us that maintaining shalom, maintaining peace, is not a given, but a process that requires constant work, focus, and care. Rav Kook and Rabbi Saperstein teach us that it is precisely the fact of knowing that peace is temporary, that it is so vulnerable to the elements, that makes it so precious, that inspires us to want to care for it and nurture it. To live in a fortress can lead to taking one's home for granted, but when we care for and nurture something we care about, we come to care about it that much more. Now, most of our homes are closer to fortresses than the flimsy sukkot that Rav Kook and Rabbi Saperstein were imagining. But when faced with a Category 5 hurricane that could bring 150-mile-an-hour winds and a 10-foot storm surge, even our fortresses are as vulnerable as a sukkah on the deck of a ship. So just as we would try to protect our sukkah in a storm, so too were we doing whatever we could to protect our homes last week. But what I saw that was even more beautiful was the way in which we were doing what we could to help our neighbors. Maybe it was helping someone put up their hurricane shutters or moving things to a higher floor that were heavy. And when we couldn't physically help, we were reaching out, offering support. Friends from out of town who would normally text were calling, wanting to hear our voices and wanting us to hear theirs. Just as we discussed on Erev Rosh Hashanah, even as we approached the storm from different places, with different needs and different concerns, we faced it together. We nurtured our Sukkot Shalom, our shelter of peace, even as we felt the vulnerability of our physical structures. Brené Brown wrote in her book, Daring Greatly, admitting our vulnerability, learning to live with uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure is letting God in. It is also key to a meaningful life. Why? Because that's how we connect to others, and connecting to others is what makes life worth living. Ultimately, while we do everything we can to prepare before a storm, what happens to our homes is out of our control. But those Sukkot Shalom, the Sukkot of peace under which each of us dwell, those are very much in our control. Those are the connections, the relationships that we were nurturing this past week, validating our core values and making sure that they were strong and intact, regardless of the outcome of the storm. That was the inspiring message that I heard from so many of you. We have what's important, you said. We're with our family. As we think about our bigger family and the larger home we all love, we know that Sukkah of peace is often tested in our larger world. We have been living through a storm in so many ways, and as our world feels so divided, as we hear the discourse surrounding us, it may feel sometimes like the Sukkah of peace under which we dwell has blown away completely. Yet, I believe that had disaster struck, those divides would no longer have mattered. Families would have come together. We would have come together as one community, supporting those with the most needs, supporting one another, because that's what we do. We would have recovered, we would have built back, and we would have done it together. Perhaps the most touching part of the end of Fiddler on the Roof was Tevye and Laser Wolf, who had become nemeses, hugging and wishing each other well. Disaster, we know, can strengthen the Sukkot Shalom. And I pray that the knowledge that we could have faced disaster will have the same effect, reminding all of us of that which is most important. Our High Holy Days are a reminder that when relationships are damaged, we can take the time needed and put in the hard work to repair them. I don't believe that God decides who by fire and who by water. And I don't believe that God determined the course of Hurricane Ian. I don't think we prayed any harder on Rosh Hashanah than they did in Fort Myers or Naples. But I do believe that God gives those suffering the strength to survive. And God gives those seeing suffering the compassion to help those in need. I know that our community will continue to support our neighbors to the south, even after the news cycle has moved on. And yet, I do thank God that I am not giving a different sermon this evening, that we are gathered safely, learning from what could have been rather than what was. So in addition to helping those whose lives were shattered, which we will continue to do, We will continue to ensure that our homes and our families are protected the best we can. We will pray for wisdom for our city, county, state, and other community leaders who continue to prepare for future storms, as we do everything we can as individuals and as a community to support that work. We will do what we can to protect our planet, trying to heal that greater sukkah that we know is all too vulnerable and battered itself. And most importantly, we will protect our relationships, caring for and nurturing those that are strong, not taking them for granted and always trying to make them stronger. And at the same time, doing all we can to begin to mend those in need of repair, knowing that even if we fell short these high holy days, those gates are never closed. Those Sukkot can always be tended to. Fiddler on the Roof begins with Tevye giving a monologue. Here in our little village of Anatevka, you might say every one of us is a fiddler on the roof, trying to scratch out a pleasant, simple tune without breaking his neck. It isn't easy. You may ask, why do we stay up there if it's so dangerous? Well, we stay because Anatevka is our home. And how do we keep our balance? That I can tell you in one word. You guys knew it too. So for Tevye, that word was tradition. For us, in our little village of Tampa, we too can sometimes feel like fiddlers on the roof. What keeps us up there is love for our home, love for our community, maybe also love of sun, beach, and winning championships, but mostly it's love of this community, love of what we've built here, love of what we know we can continue to build here. And it's also that tradition. It's knowing that we have always been more than where we live. We are more than the physical structures we've built and the things that we've acquired. We are nurturers of a Sukkot Shalom, a sukkah of peace that has given us strength in our times of need, a home built out of love that we pray will continue to strengthen and help us to weather any storm. Ufros aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha. Shelter us, God, under that sukkah of peace, that we may be protected together, that we may protect one another through all of life's storms. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May this be God's will. Amen.
Rabbi, that was truly an inspiring sermon. It really, really was. And my son Richard, when he was a freshman at Berkeley, was also the only freshman who had a line and fiddler on the roof. He was a beggar, and he asked Tevye for a handout, and Tevye said he had a bad day, and Richard, who was the beggar, said, well, why should I suffer? Because you had a bad day. Good Yontiv. Whether you're joining us in our sanctuary or from your home, we're so pleased that you are worshiping with us this evening. We hope you'll join us tomorrow morning as well. Our morning services are at 8:30 and 11:30. Both services will be streaming on our website, Facebook, and YouTube, but only the 11:30 service will be on the Tampa Bay Community Network. For families with children, our family service geared toward children in elementary school will begin at 2:15 in the sanctuary, with our tot service geared for preschoolers will begin at 3:30. For those without children, Rabbi Bernholz will be leading a discussion titled From Shtetl to New York's Most Famous Madam, Podley Adler. Should Jewish community forgive its criminal element? Discussion will begin at 2:30 in the cast room in the back of the school. We hope you'll join us as our high school students lead our afternoon service in the sanctuary at 4:30, which will also be streaming. The Shizifti service will serve as an introduction to our Yizkor service, which begins at 5 o'clock, followed by our concluding Nila service at 5:30. The entire schedule with details can be found in your program at shaaraizedek.org. Our holidays continue after Yom Kippur this weekend, as Rabbi mentioned, with Sukkot begins on Sunday, October 9th. We hope you'll join us that evening at 6 p.m. as we build our portable Sukkot at Armature Works, with a chance for everyone to bring in Sukkot together. Hopefully there's not a lot of wind. Our gatherings continue throughout the week. Details are on the same website, zedek.org, and on a postcard you'll receive at home and can be found in the Schimberg Grand Foyer. Join us for Mitzvah Day, Sunday, November 6th. Registration will be online this year, and we look forward to joining together to make a difference in our community. Speaking of, if you have brought your donation for the Shifty Food Drive benefiting the Tampa Jewish Family Services Food Bank, but did not leave it with one of our high school students before services, please do so on the way out. If you're not prepared with your donation tonight, please give it to one of our teens in the foyer tomorrow morning. We know that many guests are joining us tonight who wouldn't have been able to if we weren't streaming, and we are delighted to have you. For those who are new to our community, we hope you'll call the temple office soon and speak to a member of our staff or clergy and learn more about us. While we're so pleased to make our services and programs open and accessible, we also know it's the generosity of our members that has allowed us to do so. If you are able, we hope you'll think about supporting the congregation as well. You can visit zedek.org, donate, or call the temple office during any time to make a donation. To our temple members, thank you for your continued support of the congregation. We wouldn't be here without you. For those who are in the sanctuary, a quick reminder to keep, well, I don't think we have to do this. No, there's no service after this. You can socialize as much as you like. On behalf of our families, sisterhood, brotherhood, Shizifti, the clergy staff, the board of trustees, and my family, I'd like to wish you all a good Yontiv and Shana Tova.
Thank you, Charles. In addition to our Shizifti drive, hopefully everyone saw the email this afternoon. We do have a truck parked outside. We're partnering with Federation, and we are collecting bottled water, non-perishable food, and hygiene items. that will be taken to those affected by Hurricane Ian. So you can bring those anytime tomorrow through Sunday. So hopefully you will be able to help us there as well. At this time, we begin to conclude our service as we rise, joining together in Aleinu.
לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כמוני הרצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם כלפינו כהן, ולא עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו
You may be seated. This holy night concludes with memory. Our last thoughts always are of those we've lost. We miss them especially tonight, yearning for their presence at our side. The service we've shared once was theirs. They spoke and sang the ancient words. They prayed, repented, and yearned for better lives as we have done. Flawed in their deeds, imperfect in their faith, they still drew strength from their tradition as we seek fortitude in ours. What was good and beautiful in their lives once gave us joy and now inspires us to reach higher. The knowledge that they loved us deeply brings comfort to our hearts. So we light candles of remembrance and gratitude, and we speak this timeless truth. Zichronam livracha, their memory is a blessing now and forever. We pray that their goodness will live on in our lives, planting seeds of kindness and hope for generations to come. As we think of those empty seats next to us, those who continue to inspire us and bring meaning to our lives, we rise now as we join together in Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish, thanking and praising God for having shared those special lives with us. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, Ba'agala ubizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach leolam lomei almaya. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh. Yithadar ve'yitaleh ve'yitala. Shmei dekudesha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, as we say together, amen. We join now with our Kolenu choir in our closing song, Return Again.
May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chunecha. May God's presence shine upon you and be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's face continue to be lifted up to each of us, giving us the ability to see the gifts that we've been given as what they are, to not take them for granted, to nurture them, to appreciate them, to allow them to inspire us to take that which we can control and to try to build a peace around us that will lead others to peace, that will one day, we pray, lead to a world of peace. As we say together,
Amen.
Amen.
Good Yantif,
Good Yontif.
Gemar Chatima Tova, and Shana Tova.
2 out of 12.
cut all this off because it's dirty up here, but. Oh.